And now,
it's 10 a.m.
let's just get down to it.
And it's time for your sports fix.
Strap yourselves in, folks.
From two guys who have covered the teams you're passionate about for years.
We are professionals.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Happy New Year's, Jake and Ben, 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone. Jake Scott, Ben Anderson. How's it going over there, Ben?
Doing well, you?
I'm fine. I left you with a real dry news week.
Yeah,
you're welcome.
Nothing to talk about.
Nothing, not a thing. Yeah. How'd you fill the time?
I know, a lot of hockey.
A lot of hockey. A lot of Mammoth hockey.
Oh, we had some Mammoth hockey, but yes, of course, dominated by the ongoing news at the changes at the University of Utah and BYU.
Let the bitterness flow through you. I do find it hilarious, and I saw a meme of this, that what started with Sharon Moore's affair with his secretary has led to the complete overhaul of the local college football scene.
Yeah, the meme is Sharon Moore follows an intern on Instagram or a coworker on Instagram to where we are right now. What a butterfly effect.
It's like a domino thing.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Sharon.
Yep.
You provided Ben a busy news week, so there you go.
Weirdly, now important character in our state's history. And we talked a lot about that story when it broke because obviously it was one of the crazier stories we've had in sports in a while. I don't think any of us thought it would hit us so directly.
There was a butter knife involved?
There's a butter knife involved. And
I mean, it's really a thing. Now the transfer portal is happening. Utah doesn't have an offensive. Well, they do, I guess. They've replaced an offensive member. There's rumors about buyouts and cheapness, and wow. Predictable, though. I mean, once Kyle Whittingham used the phrase stepping down, I think we all could have seen this coming. And since, and I was talking to somebody about this yesterday, since Coach Whitt doesn't know anybody, predictable that he'd raid all the coaches that he knows.
Yeah, where's he going to go? Unless, the deal was he had to take everybody from Michigan, which he only ended up with a few. Yeah, he was going to raid the people he knew. I guess a little surprised at who was willing to follow.
Why surprised?
I didn't realize Jay Hill was that dedicated to Whitt, in all honesty.
Oh, I don't think it has anything to do with dedication. I think it has to do with Jay Hill being a Big Ten head coach.
Absolutely. That's a huge part of it.
And Jay Hill has tried a number of different alleys to get a head coaching job. None of it's worked. He's still a defensive coordinator at a Big 12 school. This is his ticket. I honestly don't think it has anything to do. I mean, they're friends or friendly or whatever the case may be. But no, this is sheer opportunity. Where was he going to get a head coaching job if he stayed as BYU's defensive coordinator?
I do wonder, and I wonder this about a couple of things, which is I really do wonder how Kalani nearly taking the Penn State job changed everybody's perspective on what they want and how soon they want it. Which, the rumor out there, if you believe it, is that Kalani was going to go to Penn State and probably poach Morgan Scalley because Morgan didn't think he was going to have a head coaching job because Whitt was going to stay. And that could have rattled Utah people by realizing, oh, man, we're close to losing Morgan Scalley. Jay Hill thought, wow, I'm going to be the next head coach at BYU. Great, this is going to work out well for me. And all of a sudden that backs out, and Morgan's not leaving, but feels like he was close to getting a bigger job at Penn State. And Jay Hill thought, wow, I was just about to be a head coach. Maybe I am comfortable with the idea about making a change of some kind. And this is where you end up now, where everybody does get something different, though instead of it being Morgan going to take a defensive coordinator job at a Big Ten school, it's Jay Hill.
Yeah, I saw some other rumors about opportunities for Morgan that were out there. I would guess that that's not the whole story. Morgan twisting arms to get the head coach at Utah. I would guess that's not a whole story. In fact, I know it's not the whole story of what set in motion all of this stuff.
No, I think you're right to the same point of Jay Hill does want to take the Michigan job, not just out of some loyalty to Whitt, because it opens up the opportunity to become a Big Ten coach at some point. Whitt wanted more money. Whitt wanted more from Utah.
Listen, Michigan is a better job.
It is.
Than defensive coordinator at Michigan is a better job than defensive coordinator at BYU. I know some fans out there will try to tell you it's a lateral move. It's not. But it opens up a whole new – listen, all these conferences are incestuous. So if you get in the door at this big conference and you do a good job, you're going to have other opportunities that are open for you. That's why I brought up what head coaching job was Jay Hill going to get? He was going to get Colorado State or, I mean, I'm just picking random, like a Pac-12 Mountain West school, or he was going to get a bottom-level Big 12 school. Like you could take Central Florida or something like that came open. And this opens the door to the next – like that. The next Big Ten school that comes open, and maybe that's Michigan. I mean, that makes a ton of sense to me.
And the truth is, once you're at Michigan, every job opens up.
As long as you don't suck.
As long as you're not terrible. Yes, what the Georgia job probably doesn't open up. The Alabama job probably doesn't open up. But the ACC will now take you seriously. The other Big Ten schools will take you seriously. He certainly has that available to him now.
No, as far as like the coaches making their decision goes, it all makes sense to me. Nah, maybe not Gennaro Guilford. That one surprised me. Leaving BYU to go to Michigan.
But the same issue. You more money or equal money, and now you're in the Big Ten. So.
He was such a BYU guy, though, and such Kalani's guy from the very beginning. I was a little surprised by that one. But Utah's offensive staff, Witt finally found a coordinator accidentally that kind of worked for him, and he took that coordinator. Not a shock. What is he going to do? Hire Andy Ludwig again?
Right. Start over.
Yeah.
And why would Jason Beck stay at Utah?
No reason.
Yeah, he's been here for 1 year. Fine. I did great.
And he's got the best freshman quarterback in the country.
Yeah.
I mean, and all that Dampier, and Bird, will they follow him? No, absolutely not. Dampier wants to play.
Bird could follow him. If Bird was happy being the backup at Utah, why not be the backup at Michigan?
But anyway, that all made sense. What, is Freddie Whittingham going to stay? I think what's rubbing Utah fans the wrong way, and I get it, is the whole leave the program in a good position garbage.
Yeah.
And I don't think he cares about that. It's funny about Kyle Whittingham. He does not care about his legacy at all, which is weird. I would have thought that would be more of a priority, but obviously it's not. I mean, the bitterness of sticking it to Utah way outweighs his desire to have any sort of legacy, which is, I guess, kind of crazy. I mean,
you think he's trying to stick it to Utah?
Absolutely. Gary Anderson said as much. I may have been out of town, but he jumped on with Hanson Scotty and said they shouldn't have pissed Kyle off. Use that word.
Yeah.
So I don't know why anybody would think any differently.
I certainly don't think Witt was trying to do Utah favors on the way out the door. But again, to your point, like, what was he supposed to do? Try and assemble an entirely new staff that doesn't function the way that he functions? Like, this is how he's become Kyle Whittingham, is these people around him. So he's going to go back to the well of the people around him to try and do a good job at Michigan, because I suspect he wants to do a very good job at Michigan. He wasn't going to go out there and start over from scratch. I'm not sure that has so much to do with, well, let me stick it to Utah now.
Oh, I think it has. You don't have to be mutually exclusive.
No, they don't. But if the idea is, or if that's how people are reading it, is that Witt's only doing what he's doing to take a shot at Mark Harlan or Utah fans, I think that's insane.
The word you use there is only.
Sure. I think some people think that would be the argument, though. It's like, yeah, that's a byproduct. Certainly it's a byproduct.
The one he's enjoying. Listen to Gary Anderson. Yeah. Here's the clip.
Yeah, well, maybe we should blame Utah for pissing Kyle off. I don't know.
There you go.
I don't know.
It would have never happened.
So it might not have happened. He might have just gone over and, played a little tennis or pickleball and rode his motorcycle and skied.
I certainly don't think Witt was done. Clearly, we know he was not done coaching. And Utah didn't feel like they could commit to him what he wanted, or vice versa. He didn't feel like Utah was willing to commit to him what he felt like he needed to be able to win.
But if you don't think he's enjoying sticking it to both Utah and BYU, I mean, I absolutely think that that's part of his motivation, 1,000%. He's going to take players, too.
Yeah, he's going to definitely take players, yeah.
If he wasn't sticking it to Utah, he would have stuck with leaving it in good shape. Not the case. And then the quote where he said, we don't tamper. Now, if they enter the portal, that's a different story, but I'm not making any phone calls. That's garbage, too.
Yeah, of course, that's garbage.
Total garbage. Why say it? I thought that was a ridiculous thing that he said in the first place, but I don't know. I mean, if you're trying to Pollyanna shit and say, well, what are you? Here's what I don't understand about fan reaction. The all of a sudden Utah love fest with Michigan, that is ludicrous.
Yeah.
I did not understand that in the slightest. And granted, I'm following it from afar on the old Snap Talk, but I'm like, what? What are these people talking about? Your coach left you flat, and that's probably a little self-inflicted. We could talk about that. But on his way out the door, he's sinking the ship 1,000%. He's doing it on purpose. And maybe you could take the, well, I don't blame him card. Okay, fine. But it doesn't change the fact that the building's on fire.
I do think you have to look at it from Witt's perspective, which is funny, and I'm not saying
he's right. I don't care about Witt's perspective.
No, I don't mean Michigan.
Why would Utah fans care about Witt's perspective? He's not the coach anymore.
Right, yeah, you've got to defend your program. Absolutely right. And Mark Harlan, that's on Mark Harlan's shoulders. You know, your job is to put the best team out there in the best position to win. Over and over and over. That's your job. Hire the best people, make sure you're in the best spot for the people that you hire to have an opportunity to win. And I don't think he did a very good job of that, obviously, with Kyle Whittingham losing. But that does go back to the funny point. We've laughed about this a lot, both on and off the air, which is when Kyle Whittingham says do what's best for the program, what does Kyle Whittingham think is what's best for the program? Kyle Whittingham. Mm-hmm. Witt thinks he's what's best for the program.
He does.
So if you're not going to put him in a position to win, he doesn't care if he's taking things with him.
No.
He's like, no, if you wanted me to leave you in a good spot, the best thing for me is to not leave you. And you made me leave you. And I'm sure that's how Witt feels. That's what Gary Anderson just said. So, yeah, I understand then from Witt's perspective why he would not feel like he needs to put Utah in some spot to have a soft landing without him there. He thought he was the best answer for Utah. He is probably right. Not that Morgan can't do a good job, but Witt, I'm sure, thought, I'm the right man for this job, and I've proven it over and over. Why am I having to prove it to you again? So I don't blame him for that. Now, if he just wanted an open-ended contract and more money, and Utah didn't feel like they've got the golden goose and can't afford it the same way BYU can, that's a choice that Mark Harlan and those in charge have to make. But I suspect that's a big part of it.
But I don't understand the, well, good for him. And way to go. You know, like, do you know how the Zone started, how this radio station started? Cumulus Media, which at the time was called something else, fired Bowler and Monson because of whatever reason. So Bowler and Monson walked across the street to Simmons Media and said, hey, how would you guys like to start a sports radio station starring Bowler and Monson? Now, good for them. They found their next job or whatever. But do you know what part of their motivation is?
Spite.
We're going to stick it to Cumulus Media.
Yeah, for sure.
And do you think the people over at Cumulus Media or K-Fan at the time were like, wow, good for those guys?
Yeah, right. No, of course not.
Way to go. Good for you. No, I don't get that in the slightest. It's almost like what is that where you fall in love with your captor? What's that?
Stockholm Syndrome.
Stockholm Syndrome.
Yeah.
Like the guy is sticking it to you on the way out the door, and you're like, "Wow, I love Michigan now." Really?
Yeah, I don't understand that. I don't understand a sudden Michigan fandom. I do.
You taking a jab at PK wearing a Michigan hat?
I don't know, kind of. Although PK is a different story.
I think you're right. You're going to see some Michigan fans pop up. I certainly don't think Utah fans have to be mad at Witt. There are a lot of fans who wanted to get rid of him. There were a lot of fans who wanted to move on. I never agreed with that, but there were a lot of Utah fans that would rather have had this exact situation with Witt raiding Utah to go to Michigan than have Witt back, which I do not understand that, but I think there are some fans that think Witt was really holding Utah back, which I think is crazy.
I mean, we can talk a little bit about the Vegas Bowl because I thought it was refreshing to see a Utah coach pour it on and not go into his shell with a 7-point lead.
Sure.
To actually go out and be aggressive and have an aggressive game plan. And pull the, in 2008, 2008, I guess it was 2009 in the Sugar Bowl, where famously at halftime, Witt said, make them quit.
Yeah.
That was the only time he did that. I remember when Utah rolled Oregon and Eugene, the Tom Hackett,
right.
all that. I was at that game, and in the post game, I said, why did you what was the difference? Why did you really beat him up? And he goes, well, it's Oregon. They could come back at any time. That was his answer. Why don't you pretend like you're playing Oregon every week?
Right.
Instead of getting a 7 or 14-point lead and getting in A-Rod or whoever the coordinator's here at the time and said, if you pass the ball and risk a turnover, I'm going to have your job. You know?
Yeah.
There's more than one way to skin a cat. And I thought it was interesting to see Utah go into a big game with a game plan of we're going to pour it on these guys. And we're going to cream them. And Dampier's going to have 500 total yards.
Yeah, the story of that game, not to get too far into it now, is that Dampier was the guy. It was not Bird. That they went with Dampier and they stuck with Dampier throughout the entire game.
Kyle Whittingham is not the only one who can coach at the University of Utah. I don't. Utah fans should be bent. They should be. Are you a Kyle Whittingham fan or are you a Utah fan? Because the program is not bigger than one person. It's not. No program is. Or no coach is bigger than the program.
Yeah.
Not Nick Saban in Alabama.
Right.
Not Lou Holtz at Notre Dame. Not Frank Beamer at Virginia Tech. It's not. And these coaches get in their own brain about it's about me. There's certainly more people that can succeed at Utah. And Utah has succeeded as a football program not just because Kyle Whittingham.
Agreed.
Ron McBride won there, Urban Meyer won there, and Kyle Whittingham won there. That's 3 in a row.
It is. And you do start to wonder if Witt started to get that sense of himself.
Absolutely, he did.
I don't think there was a question that Witt started to think, because, again, you and I laughed about it on and off the air that I'm going to do what's best for the program last year. Kyle Whittingham dialed up his own number. When he said, I'm going to do what's best for the program, he said, I'm what's best for the program.
But do you think he wants the program to succeed? Absolutely not.
Now,
no. 100%.
And we do see that, and I guess I'm a little surprised by that. Do I think he's rooting against Morgan Scalley? No, but we do see that a lot.
It's natural. It's a natural thing. You leave a job. Do you want to see that company or whatever, that job be done better when you're gone? Absolutely not. You want who's our guy Dan Roberts on DJ and PK? When asked about the new guy doing the PA at Delta Center, he goes, "I hope it fails."
Yeah.
You know, Dan doing that job forever probably told himself in his mind, well, I want to leave this job in a good place when I eventually leave.
Of course.
He gets more, I don't know, he can describe how he separated from that job, but he gets pushed out. And what's his attitude? Heck no, I hope that guy fails.
Yeah.
That's what Witt thinks about Utah. He hopes that Morgan fails. And we can all get caught up in the warm and fuzzy of, well, Morgan and Kyle are just so close. Are they? Because the behavior of Kyle Whittingham would absolutely scream the otherwise.
He certainly, has not done Morgan any favors now.
He hasn't done anybody any favors.
Other than leaving.
Other than himself.
Yeah. And the coaches, he got raises.
You know, people can have this altruistic, well, Kyle Whittingham is this warm and heroic character. Not right now. Not if you're a Utah fan. Not even close. I couldn't believe when Smith Snowden hit the transfer portal. I was absolutely shocked by that. He could have done that last year.
I'm more surprised by John Henry Daly, to be honest with you, but
why is that?
He'd already transferred once. He really kind of seemed like BYU treated him poorly is what kind of his opinion felt like. So to come to Utah and feel like he, was embraced and had such a great year this season, I was a little surprised. I also didn't think he'd be back and available to play next year, so that plays a part in it.
Well, the story, it's a story, total rumor I heard about that was he wanted a bunch of dough and Utah couldn't pay him.
Yeah, I believe that.
So that has nothing to do with...
Smith already tested apparently the transfer portal last year, right? Wasn't that the rumor that he was really looking and understood his worth? So when his coaches left, that doesn't surprise me either. And I'm sure Utah didn't want to give him as much money as he was demanding.
Did his coaches leave? Because Sharif Shaw's still there.
Still there.
Morgan's still there.
Yeah.
Utah's defensive staff, for the most part,
but if he's a Witt guy,
is intact. So, I don't know. It's a complex story. I've really enjoyed following it from afar, but I don't understand some of the reaction where people can't read what's going on. The Ute fan / Michigan fan thing just blows me away. It's like somebody is robbing you blind and you're thanking them. Now, maybe you left the door open for them to rob you, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't change the fact that they're robbing you blind.
I do think
and you're saying, "Oh, thank you. You're just wonderful."
I think there are a lot of Utah fans who loyalty belongs more to Witt right now, not long term, but right now than it does Mark Harlan.
Oh, I know. I think it should be the university. Mark Harlan should have nothing to do with it.
Well, I do
How many, like, there are still somehow Wizards fans out there, even though they're the worst run organization in sports.
There are. But there are people who think that what Mark Harlan has done is embarrassing at Utah, regardless. Not just the Witt stuff.
Yeah, fair enough, but that's the magic of college sports. It doesn't matter. You're still a Ute fan or a Cougar fan no matter what. That's the point. Now, Mark Harlan's got to feel some heat because some of this is self-inflicted, but that doesn't excuse Kyle's reaction.
There's just a wide swath of fans. Some fans are going to jump ship. Some fans are going to follow Kyle. Some fans are going to hate Kyle. I don't know. I'm trying to not paint with that broad of a brush of who's following who. But, yeah, we will see it. We will see Michigan hats around.
But listen, I think Morgan will do things differently. And I love Morgan Scally. He's great. I worked with him at this station for a year. He is a charismatic, terrific human being who deserves this opportunity, and I think he's going to kill it. I really do. I think he's going to kill it. I think the Vegas Bowl was just a sign of things to come for him. But he's not been done any favors by his supposed mentor. In fact, quite the opposite. And I feel for him in that way because he was supposed to inherit a program that was in a good position and a good position to succeed. What Dean Smith left Bill Guthrie with. All Americans, is supposed to be, next stop 10 wins and you're going to get your career started right. And that is not the case. Not at all.
Well, Witt wasn't left with that by Urban Meyer when he left. He took a lot of his guys with him as well, and Witt got the job and had to build from scratch. So I'm sure Witt looks at Morgan and says, you can do the same thing.
Urban took a corner. His name was Ryan Smith. And he took Dan Mullen, and that was it. He didn't sink Witt on the way out the door, not even close. In fact, left Witt Eric Weddle and left Witt Brian Johnson.
But didn't leave him a number 1 overall draft pick. I mean, he got out while the getting out was good.
Well, I was going to say Alex graduated. He didn't. He left a year early for the NFL. That had nothing to do with Urban Meyer. So I don't agree with that take that Urban took all his guys. Urban didn't take all his guys.
I'm sure from Kyle Whittingham's perspective, he feels that way. I didn't have my guys. I had to go and find new coordinator.
Because they all graduated, though. That's not Urban sinking the ship on the way out the door.
But again, I don't think Witt really cares of the context of what you say. I started over. I had to build my own foundation to win here, and I went out and did it. I'm sure he looks at Morgan the same way.
I think you could stop with Witt doesn't really care.
Yeah, I think Witt doesn't care.
I think you could stop the sentence
there. And by the way,
there.
Witt doesn't
so
need
why
to care.
should people thank him?
No,
but
they don't need
why
to.
should people thank him on the way out the door?
I don't know why anybody, certainly not while he's at Michigan. If you want to thank him down the line, I think that's totally fair. And say, yeah, he's the greatest coach your school's ever had, the winningest coach your school's ever had. And I think if you wanted to say he's a Hall of Famer and he's going to be, and appreciate him then, I think that's totally fine. You don't have to appreciate him right now.
I think that only happens if Morgan sucks.
No,
if Morgan rattles off a bunch of 10-win seasons, people will forget.
People will bring Witt back with open arms.
They'll bring him back and acknowledge him.
Yeah,
he won't be treated like a legend.
Yes, he will. Absolutely. That's been stamped a long time ago.
And the best coach in program history, all that stuff, he's damaging all of that. Absolutely.
He certainly has changed. The exit has changed that. But greatest coach in history, getting a statue apparently, or not apparently, I've not heard that, but what a lot of fans wanted him to get a statue, that will happen.
If Witt had sucked, Urban would have been thought of much differently. Urban is thought of as, the booster shot or whatever for Utah football. If Witt had sucked, he would have been thought as the pinnacle and would have been treated like a legend. Now he's just treated as, welcome back anytime you want to come. Uh-huh. If Morgan sucks, people will look back on Witt and go, oh, those were the days. Man, this guy's a legend.
Certainly.
If Morgan kills it, he'll be an afterthought. He'll be welcome back, and man, you were pretty good for a long time, but...
No, I think he's always going to wear the Sugar Bowl. He's always going to wear the Pac-12. He's always going to wear the Big 12. It's always going to be his doing. I don't agree with that at all with Witt. Witt's going to be beloved forever.
All right, stay tuned. Top 3 stories of the day at KSLSports.com. Coming up next, Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's time to break down the biggest stories of the day. This is the Top 3 Stories of the Day on KSLSports.com. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jacob Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Time for the top 3 stories of the day. KSLSports.com, brought to you by J. Brooks Jewelers. Cherish your love with J. Brooks Jewelers. Explore their expertly crafted engagement rings made from the finest materials. J. Brooks Jewelers. All right, Christian, where do you want to start today?
Number one, big news over the weekend from the Hill. Morgan Scally starting to fill out his coaching staff.
Actually did it quite quickly. We talked to Steve Bartle a couple of times last week, and he kind of made it seem like it might take a few weeks to even finish some of these hires. But for the most part, this staff is done. You've got a new offensive coordinator, got a new defensive coordinator, and looks like things are going to move forward relatively quickly.
Kevin McGiven kind of fell out of nowhere to be the OC. First of all, Kevin's great. I like Kevin. I think that's a fine hire. Once again, Utah goes to Bronco Mendenhall's offensive coordinator for their OC, and Bronco turns around and hires Dr. Bob.
He's back
at Utah State, which, you know, if
within an hour of that announcement, Robert and I was back at Utah
well,
State. Very
Robert
cool.
and I created all these offensive coordinators.
Yeah.
So, I mean, why not go to the source? Makes a ton of sense. But I guess we were talking about it a little bit during the break. Are you surprised it wasn't some of the names that we heard? We heard Arroyo. We heard Jonathan Smith.
A-Rod. Yes, because McGiven just had not been mentioned at all. And one of the things that had really been touted about Morgan was having a much broader and wider Rolodex than Kyle Whittingham. And he did, outside of the O-line coach, none of that. It's all familiar faces. It's all people either within arm's reach of the program or within arm's reach of Morgan Scally. Just nothing really all that exciting. I should say defensive line coach, not offensive line coach. The D-line coach is just not that exciting. Jordan Gross coming back is obviously within arm's length of Morgan. Yeah, it's just not like he had this super deep list of people he wanted to go to. And look, coaches go with who they trust. Hence Kyle Whittingham picking the people he did, and Bronco Mendenhall bringing back Bob and I. You go with the names you're familiar with, but this was not this list of exciting names that I think some Utah fans hoped. Now, that doesn't mean they can't succeed. I don't care about exciting names. Go do what works well. But this was not, hey, I'm going to go look at the best around the country and kind of handpick them to come in and build out my new staff. I don't think that was on the table for Utah.
I don't draw a straight line between the hires and Morgan's Rolodex for a couple of reasons. One, the timing of it all. He's just trying to snap up a coaching staff last minute of people that are available, and not a surprise that people with familiarity with Utah would come back to Utah. And we have no idea what kind of resources Morgan's working with, frankly. I mean, Jonathan Smith's going to cost you
$1.5 million?
Right.
Yeah.
Arroyo's going to cost you
$1 million.
Like what are you going to do if you don't have the resources to spend that kind of money on a coach? Well, you're going to look somewhere else, and you're going to scramble to find somebody that wants the job and wants it for the price. So I don't know about Morgan's Rolodex. I think we'll learn more about that as it goes forward.
But yeah, the Rolodex may not matter if the bank account doesn't match.
Right. Or if you're calling an offensive coordinator and he goes, yeah, I took a job at UCLA 2 months ago. I'm not going anywhere. You're late to the party.
Yeah.
So, and I never bought the A-Rod thing. A-Rod would be crazy to go back to Utah, in my opinion.
There's some advantages. I'm sure not having to recruit the honor code, even though it seems less
Does that even
restrictive
exist
maybe than
anymore?
it was. Yeah, of course it does. But it seems somewhat less restrictive than it used to. And there's just going to be more money at BYU and more resources at BYU. So I'm with you. I never really understood that, other than maybe he was leveraging that for an opportunity to get more money.
Maybe.
Which would make a lot of sense.
But as far as, like, which job would you rather have if you were A-Rod? You'd rather have BYU right now because you've got resources and you've got a track record. And
you've got a guy coming in.
You've got a guy coming in. You've got a pipeline. I mean, that never made sense. I guess I would guess Morgan and A-Rod are friendly from their time on Utah's staff, but you got to think about what's a better position. Mm-hmm. And if Utah's not going to give you a raise and not going to be any sort of boost to the next step in his journey, then why would he do it?
Yeah, if they're not going to make your life easier, you could be out again.
So I never really bought into that. I was listening to the Saturday show this week, and I heard Christian talk about the possibility of a pro-style offense. And I wish that's the way Morgan would go. But the way Christian and Alex were interpreting pro style, though, is not how I would. They were talking about more of a throw game. Like, that is a pro style quarterback, a quarterback that can come in and throw it all over the yard, which is not.
That's what Steve Bartle had said on Friday.
Yeah,
for
we had
context.
Bartle on, and he had said he thinks Morgan wants a guy who's going to coach quarterbacks and recruit quarterbacks that make pro-level throws.
So a pro style is what I absolutely think they should do, and that's 2 tight ends, 2 receivers, 1 back. I mean, picture Andrew Luck at Stanford. And I think that would work really well for Utah. And Andrew Luck, if you remember back to those offenses, they weren't passing offenses. They were running. Christian McCaffrey, Bryce Love, remember, they were rushing pro style, more like you're watching the Packers than you're watching, I don't know, Florida under Urban Meyer.
Sure.
So I like that concept. Now, to go get a great pro-style quarterback is easier said than done, and thus the reason that Kyle Whittingham ran the spread for 20 years is because a dual threat, quote-unquote, whatever that is so much easier to find than Andrew Luck, for example. So it's interesting they're going to stick with the spread. I liked the concept of going with a more pro-style approach at Utah, and they don't really have the personnel for it, so maybe that dictated the hire. But
nobody has said it, but if you read between the lines, one of the things that every writer, including Steve Bartle and Josh Furlong, said was that one of the reasons they really like McGiven is coming from Bronco Mendenhall, it's all the same language that they had under Jason Beck. All the terminology is the same, so they don't have to start from square one. Well, what situation would you be in where you don't want to start from square one? If your quarterback's coming back.
Yeah, well,
that's why that's another big part of why I think this is. They are putting their eggs in the basket of Devin Dampier, which is also really interesting because as we talked about this last week, do you hire a coordinator to match your quarterback or do you bring in a quarterback to match your coordinator? And it certainly seems like right now Utah's bringing in a coordinator to match the quarterback.
Yeah, ideally it would be the latter, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I don't.
Yeah, have a vision.
No, Morgan has no leash. That's another bad spot that Witt has left Morgan in is he doesn't have runway. We're talking about when Witt taken over for Urban Meyer. Witt had 3 years of runway. If he didn't turn it in 2007, maybe we would have a little bit of a different conversation. But after all the injuries at the beginning of 2007, it started to turn, and all of a sudden that led to 2008, and now we're talking about the legendary Kyle Whittingham. Well, that was not the case in 2006.
Right, no, of course not. No.
So he had runway. Morgan doesn't have any runway.
You don't think so?
No.
You think he's got a year or two to win?
Yeah, I think Ute fans are addicted to winning 10 games. Yes.
I think Utah fans expect a lot.
Yep.
I don't think Harlan, though I don't know if Harlan's going to be here in 3 years, I don't think Harlan could get rid of Morgan in 2 years, unless it's an unmitigated disaster.
When Witt took over, Urban was considered a flash in the pan. Urban was not considered the norm. The 80s were still fresh.
Yeah. When
Utah was a terrible program. There was no entitlement at all because people remembered what a struggle, how bad the 80s were, but the struggle of the 90s to even put the train on the tracks. And then Urban comes in and it's a fantasy. So all of a sudden you get this runway because they just didn't want to go back to winning 3 games a year, which didn't happen.
Right.
But that's not the case anymore. Christian he wasn't even alive in the 90s.
Yeah. No, Morgan's walking into a more difficult job.
The fans at Utah are addicted to winning 10 games.
They are.
And the good news is the fans will still go and sell out that stadium no matter how bad they are. But the expectations are totally different.
It's a tougher conference, yes, and with a much higher bar to clear.
I hung out with a buddy last night that he and his family went down to the Vegas Bowl. And they asked me how it looked on TV as far as fan split went. And I thought, 50-50, but tough to tell because of all the red, right? And they were really surprised. They assumed that 3/4 of the crowd was going to be Utah fans. Mm-hmm. And they thought it was a little more 50-50. That's because Nebraska fans are rabid.
They are.
And they go to every game.
And they haven't been to a lot of bowl games lately, and they haven't been to Vegas. So
and
that makes sense.
That stuff doesn't go away easily. Gary Croton did not kill the BYU fan base.
Right.
But what Lavelle did for Gary was adjust the expectations where, well, you better be rolling conference championships and winning 10 games every year or you're out.
Yeah.
And Gary didn't have a runway. He even had a great season. His first season had a great year with the Doak Walker Award winner and Luke Staley and all this stuff out on his ear.
Yeah.
What, 2 years later? 3 years later?
3 years, yeah.
Because the expectations are what they are. The BYU fans didn't go anywhere. But their expectations were, you got to be Lavelle, dude. Morgan maybe can have an average year next year. But Ute fans want to win 10 games. That's it. Yep. And they want to conference titles or have talked themselves into that they're one step away from a national title.
Beat BYU. Yep. They want all those things.
You got to flip it because you can't just rebuild it. He doesn't have that luxury. I think ideally you'd bring in a coordinator that was going to run the system you want to run and recruit a quarterback from somewhere that's going to do that. I don't think he has that luxury. But good. I'm excited for Kevin McGiven. I think he'll do a good job.
I have no idea how anyone's ever going to do.
I'm just saying I'm excited for him personally because he's a good dude and he's a good coach, and who knows how it's going to go. Yeah, right. But he has potential. It's not a quote-unquote bad hire.
And there are a lot of sexy hires that fall flat on their face. Kevin McGiven is not a sexy hire. He's not. Hiring Utah State's offensive coordinator who coached your last quarterback is not a cool hire. It's just not. It's hard to sell yourself on it. I don't care about selling myself on anything. Let me just see what they do on the field.
I don't think McGiven ever coached Dampier.
No, not Dampier. I mean, he coached the pig farmer.
Oh, I see. All right, next.
Number 2, Jazz back in action at Portland tonight.
Jazz are winless in the new year, appear to be taking some steps to lose some games. Maybe not in Portland, though, because it seems like everybody is back and probable to play tonight. We'll see if Ace Bailey returns to the floor. He hasn't played in a while with that hip flexor.
He shouldn't, unless he's 100% healthy.
If he's banged up, no reason to play.
Interesting that guys like Cody Williams are getting a lot more opportunity.
And, playing well. Cody's been one of the more pleasant surprises. It's not like he was brilliant the other night, but he's certainly playing better in the last few games than he did probably at any point last season.
Well, he's way more aggressive. He seems more comfortable. That's what Coach and I were talking. He just seems more those dunks were something. He didn't feel like he could do that a year ago.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably a good sign when it comes to him.
I just truly don't know if he knew where he could operate in any sense. And I do think some ways he was misused standing in the corner and just trying to shoot threes. Now, maybe he was misusing himself. Maybe you need to catch that ball and attack the rim. And he was just settling for the three-point shot because it's easier than dribbling or turning the ball over. But if you're never making threes, which to this point Cody has not shot particularly well, probably is better to try and do something within your hands. But yeah, that's certainly not the story of what's going on with the Jazz right now, where I think right now they have the 7th worst record in the NBA. They are losing games at a seemingly higher rate.
They played well against Golden State. Steph just lit them on fire in the third quarter, as we've seen him do a bunch of times. But there were positives from that game. They're not playing poorly. I don't know. I didn't get a chance to really dissect the Clipper game as I was on the other side of the country. But I don't know. I'm dreading the new year for the Jazz, not from they're going to have to start booting games, and I hate that.
Yep. And I
don't care about the losses. I'll talk about the loss against Golden State.
Yeah.
All day long. I think they're going to have to go to more extreme measures going forward. How many games can they afford to win for the rest of the year? 10?
Yeah, 10 to 12. I mean, they're at 13 right now or 12 right now. They need to be probably right around 25 to feel comfortable about their draft position. And the nice thing is teams around them are doing favors. A lot of the other teams that are right where the Jazz are, Brooklyn, Charlotte, the Mavericks, they're all winning some games too. So the Jazz probably don't feel as much pressure. But at some point, this is the scene in Point Break where they're wondering who's going to pull the chute, who's going to wait too long before they finally bail out and don't hit the ground, and someone's going to have to pull that chute eventually.
All right, what's next?
NFL Week 18 is in the books. The playoff bracket is set.
I'm not a gambler, Ben, and the reason is because if you would have asked me who was going to be the bye teams in the NFL playoffs, I would never have said the Broncos and the Seahawks in a million years. A million years.
Yep.
How wild is that? I love it that Sam Darnold's rubbing it in the Jets' face.
Were you seeing Carolina Panthers fans where you were? You were just back home?
No, not. There are more Ravens fans in that part of Virginia than there are Panthers fans, I'd say.
Yeah. I am just thinking.
Or Washington fans, commies.
Yeah, that makes sense.
More commies than
You're
Ravens fans.
You're a little further east than I guess I thought you were. But, I mean, the Panthers make the playoffs with a sub-500 record. Somewhat embarrassing. Obviously, the big story last night, Loop from Arizona missing the field goal. So the Ravens do not make the playoffs, and Aaron Rodgers gets one more chance to make a push with the Steelers.
One more chance. He might pull a wit and stick around for a while.
Here's your matchups. Rams will be taking on the Panthers. Packers will be taking on the Bears. Bills will be taking on the Jaguars. Bills might lose that game. 49ers taking on the Eagles. Chargers taking on the Patriots. And then Monday night is going to be the Texans taking on the Steelers.
Man, a lot of teams to cheer against in there.
I'm rooting for the Seahawks. Sam Darnold stuff is awesome. I think that's one of the cooler stories we've had in the NFL, which is he was awesome last year, and they said, well, we get McCarthy. He's terrible. And so he goes to Seattle and does the exact same thing, except probably better, and has a better team around him now.
Bird in the hand, ball on the carpet.
Yep.
It's bad in the NFL.
Yep, it is.
And these franchises need to stop falling in love with these quarterbacks, even though they invest a first-round pick in them.
Yep.
It's no reason to. You and I both actually didn't hate the Kirk Cousins and then
Michael Penix.
Everybody's like, "What are you doing?" And it's like, "Well, you're hedging your bets.
Yeah.
You're bringing in an experienced guy. You're drafting a rookie. There's no guarantee that Michael Penix is going to be any good. I watched Josh Rosen's career.
Right.
You know, I watched Zach Wilson's career. There's no guarantee that you're going to be any good. Why would you totally put your eggs in that basket? I think Minnesota deserves what they got. Did Minnesota have the bye last year? No, but they had the top 2 or 3 record in.
They finished tied, I think, with the Lions. I think the Lions had the bye because the Lions won. They played Week 18.
Yeah,
the Lions won
that's right.
Week 18. Vikings played the Rams and lost.
Let's go with the rookie who's coming off a serious injury.
Now, here's what's interesting. Stick with me here. The number of first-round draft picks starting in the quarterback starting in the playoffs is crazy. Rams, yes. Packers, yes. Panthers, yes. Bears, yes. Bills, yes. 49ers, no. Chargers, yes. Jaguars, yes. Eagles, no. Jalen Hurts was not a first-round pick, right? Not. Second round. Patriots, yes. Texans, yes. Steelers, yes. Is that 10 of the 11?
Yeah, but the Steelers
and
hardly.
Bo Nix?
The Steelers hardly counts, though.
Bo Nix was a first-rounder, right? So it's 11 of the 12?
How many?
Darnold was a first-round pick also?
I don't know.
That's crazy.
I don't know this, though. How many were drafted by the team?
Rams, no. Panthers, yes. Packers, no. Bears, yes. Or Packers, yes, excuse me. Bills, yes. Chargers, yes. Jaguars, yes. Eagles, yes, they drafted Jalen Hurts, but that was second-round pick. Patriots, yes. Texans, yes. Steelers, no. So, as much as I say you should never use a first-round pick on a quarterback, the proof is in the pudding that all these guys that they drafted in the first round are starting games in the playoffs.
Now, there's no way you would know this, obviously, but I'd be curious to go through that and how many of the other first-round picks were complete boots.
Absolutely right. You just have to get it right. But, yes, a lot of other guys in these same drafts are not remarkable.
We fall too in love with rounds. You think you care what round Tom Brady was taken in? You just got to find the dude.
Right.
So, all right. Stay tuned. We'll have more coming up next. It's Jake and Ben Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Whether it's the Jazz, Utes, Cougars, or Aggies, these guys have got you covered.
Time to eat, fellas.
You're locked on to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
1, 2, 3, move it.
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jake Scott, Ben Anderson. Talking a lot about the Utah coaching situation. Ben, I got a couple of snap talks in response.
Okay.
One from Classless Skip. Just little corrections and retractions. Classless Skip said, Herb took 4 assistants to Florida. Sanford took 2 more assistants to UNLV. And Witt was left with 1 assistant, Gary Anderson. And then said, I guarantee Scally isn't crying over this. Well, I don't think Morgan's crying.
No.
But, I mean, one day when he took the job, he thought he had an offensive staff. And then the next day he didn't.
Well, the big issue with this for me, and I yelled about this a week ago today, was that if they made such a big story last year about how Morgan Scalley was involved in the process of hiring Jason Beck. That was a huge narrative, and that was put out there by a couple of people. Utah's people, Kyle Whittingham, Morgan Scalley. And Morgan doesn't talk that much, so I don't want to put it on Morgan's shoulders. But the idea was, look, Morgan's already making hires for his next job. Look at the job we're doing to put Morgan in a spot to succeed. And then 12 months later, whoever is to blame, if you want to blame Witt, if you want to blame Harlan, whoever, that work didn't matter. Having Morgan go out there and pick or be a part of picking Jason Beck simply didn't matter at all. Because for the most part, now maybe if Devin Dampier returns, great. It's a good opportunity for Morgan Scalley to have some familiarity with his quarterback, which is probably the most important thing you can have right now in college football. But otherwise, I just don't think it really mattered that Morgan was involved in Jason Beck. Who cares? And why was that a narrative that was being sold in the first place if he wasn't going to be around by the time Morgan took the job?
PR. That's it.
Yeah.
My thoughts on what you're saying is, can we all now agree that the coach in waiting thing is the stupidest thing ever and should be ignored because it means nothing, and if anything, it just complicated the matter. And two, all that flowery crap doesn't matter. Don't fall for it. It was never a thing. It's not a thing. It's just something they put out into the atmosphere to make people feel better. And by the way, whoever was interviewing Jason Beck for the job last year, Jason Beck's under no obligation to stay or go based on who was sitting in the room asking him questions. Yeah, it's so dumb. Yep. So, but classless Skip, I don't think Urban was spiting Utah when he took those 4 assistants to Florida. Those were the 4 assistants that he brought to Utah. So I guess you could make the same argument about Kyle, I suppose, if that's what you're getting at. And then 801 Sports tweets in and says, the Utah to Michigan fan love ended about 24 hours after all those coaches were announced leaving, and even more so after the tampering and burning Utah to the ground actions by Witt. And
it could get worse. We don't actually know where John Henry Daly's going. We don't know what Utah's going to do with their quarterbacks. We don't know where Smith Snowden is going. And we don't know if guys like J.J. Buchanan or others are going to enter the transfer portal and follow suit. If Kelvin Olbott, the 5-star tackle, doesn't end up staying with his head coach from high school, Jordan Gross, and does go to Michigan or elsewhere, these feelings could certainly get worse.
No, I don't think that's happening. I think that's why they hired Jordan Gross.
I'm totally with you, but
so I don't. And by the way, Jordan Gross, that's an interesting kind of side topic because his loyalty is to Utah, not to Kyle Whittingham. So if you're reading into, did Obot commit to Witt or did he commit to Utah? Well, if you want to read into that, he committed to Utah.
Assuming he stays.
I think we probably would have heard something by now.
You would hope so. Yeah.
I mean, you would have.
I think there are still going to be players that enter the transfer portal, Obot, I mean, we don't know anything.
Well, he's not even on campus.
No, right, exactly right. So I don't, even talking about him is somewhat reckless at this point because things change so quickly, as we've noticed in college football. But, yeah, I mean, he could, if he wants to throw his name in and never play, that's fine. He can decide, he can request to back out. There are kids at Michigan who requested to back out of their commitments already under Kyle Whittingham. So I think that could still happen. But yeah, if he's a big Jordan Gross guy, which was his high school coach, follow him.
But what I don't understand about the Michigan love is I don't think Utah fans owe Kyle any warm feelings at all. I don't think Utah fans owe Kyle anything more than a thanks for a job well done. Certainly don't need to fall in love with Michigan, or I don't even think need to act with understanding for what he's doing to Utah. I think Ute fans should be bent. I think Morgan should be bent. I certainly think Mark Harlan should be bent. But again, that might be self-inflicted.
Yeah, I feel however you want to feel, whatever, as a fan. You certainly don't have loyalty to Michigan. Well, what is that? No, you've actually, some of the best stuff Witt ever did was beating Michigan up when he got to play him. I don't certainly feel any reason why Utah fans should be following him there. Now, if you would rather see Michigan win than Ohio State next year, that's fine, whatever. But you don't need to root against Witt if you don't want to. But no, I certainly don't feel like you owe Kyle Whittingham anything.
All right, stay tuned. We'll have more Jake and Ben coming up next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.